Hey, what's going on, Maschine Masters? My name is MGTheFuture. Thank you for joining us on this channel today. Today I will be using Studio One version 4, and I want to talk about groove pools. This is something that I've kind of covered in other DAWs, but I noticed that Studio One does it quite effortlessly as well. It's kind of up there with Ableton Live, to be honest. It's only missing a couple parameters, but the two things that it does very well, I'm going to highlight and showcase for you right now. So what I got on this first track here is a break from the Marvelous Breaks Volume 4. And what I like about it is the pocket that it's in, or the timing. So in most cases, you can layer that up and add your own drums and kind of quantize them together. But let's say you want to do something totally different, like a trap pattern. So that might not layer well with those type of textures, but you still want that groove. So I'm going to borrow his break, use that as a groove reference, and apply it to my trap pattern. So what I'm going to do is select the area here, do Command-Shift-P to create a pattern, bring this back, resize it to 1 bar, and I believe this drum sampler that I'm using, it starts on C3. So I'm going to kind of trace this pattern loosely. Cool. Now what I want to do is split this up by pitch. So the first thing I do is right click, go to instrument parts, and convert pattern to a part, which will give us the MIDI view. And of course you can quantize it here, but I want to separate that. So I'm going to right click this event again. I'm going to explode pitches to their own tracks. So I have one track, which is the kick, and one which is the snare. And this is really cool for arranging to keep your track split this way, especially if you're using a drum sampler like Atlas, Battery, etc., even Maschine, I believe. So now what I want to do is take this break and drag it into my groove pool. To get this, just click on the Q at the top of Studio One, and it's usually on grid if you're quantizing, but switch it to groove. I want to drag this in, and as you can see, it made the velocity marks and the timing marks for each sample that's in this file. So I can unsolo these, I'm going to mute these, now I'm going to highlight this snare track and hit apply. And you'll notice that these shifted backwards a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing to the kick, but the problem that you have with this, because there's not a lot of points in between, if you do a pattern different than the original, it's going to guess where these should go. And then you're left with adjusting the rest. So hit apply, and so far so good. It didn't move anything out of pocket too crazy. So let's hear this new kick and snare pattern. So it's dragging a little bit, it's a little bit more looser, way more humanized. And that's pretty much the objective from this kind of thing. When you branch off in like East Coast hip hop, or you get into lo-fi stuff, you can use any break in your library really and create a bunch of these just to use for this particular task. It helps out tremendously, especially if you're going for the Dilla Knife Wonder style. Now that I got that, I want to do the same thing with this hi-hat loop that sounds like this. But what I'm going to do different with this one is I want to change my tempo so this is half a bar. So I believe that's around 92, 93 beats per minute. I want to drag it to the top. This one, what I have is the same data, and you can see the shape of this hi-hat pattern, which is very useful because you can draw your velocities manually in the pattern mode. But what I'm going to do is create a new track. So I got a new Atlas track with a signal going to Atlas. And what I want to do is take this that became the MIDI file, click on it, drag it down, and now I got a hi-hat track. And it's only half the length, right? So I'm bring this back, and I'm gonna have to repeat it twice to get the full hi-hat experience. So I'm drag this up, and now I can move up and down arrows on my keyboard to figure out where the hi-hat is. Right? Cool. I need another sound. I need to open hi-hat to really complement that. Cool. So this one I should just have to move up once, because that's where the open hi-hat was in that loop. Perfect. Now I can duplicate it, how to move it over. You'll notice that it's not starting on the first beat, and that kind of gives it its feeling. Now I can change this tempo to whatever I want to because these are MIDI clips, and they're going to stay relative to their grid points. Now I want to combine these together using merge events, and what I want to do is select all these notes, and I actually want to shift them back now. So under snap, make sure you got the adaptive, and make sure your snaps are disabled. And I'm going to do Command A to select all the notes, and I'm going to bring them back a little bit closer to get them in pocket with my drums. Now go back to Atlas and maybe switch the kit up a little bit. Now all together in any tempo that I want. Really cool. So you take the groove from whatever you want to conform to your drums. And then of course you can actually use it to convert audio to MIDI in a loose sense by dragging an audio clip, usually of a single event. So a lot of people record bands and stuff, they have different mics for just the kicks or just the snares and things like that. So you drag that into your groove pool up here and then drag it back down and assign a new sound to it. So that kind of replaces drum replacement tools if you have stems of individual drum sound. So that's really cool. Very similar to the audio to MIDI function in Ableton. So it's really useful. So the only thing missing now is probably just a regular loop. So I think I'm going to add something from this royalty-free loops just to tie it all together. That one sounds really groovy. That's at 120 beats per minute, so it's actually 60 because of halftime, right? So I'm going to time stretch it by holding the Alt key. Let's hear how this sounds. Let's add some effects to it, maybe something simple like halftime. Let's low cut it. And then I could take that audio, make sure I'm analyzing my break from the Marv Breaks kit, select my audio file. Let's try to quantize that. It'll use bin markers to do so. And then remember, since this is your own sounds and you're using your own samples, if that hi-hat gets annoying, anytime you can change it. So what that allows you to do is to reuse the loops and the sample packs that you're buying, which is really important. Or if you have a whole bunch of things that are like your favorite loops, you could reuse them over and over just by using the raw MIDI data from this quantize and groove section in Studio One. But anyway, I'm MGTheFuture. Thank you for joining us today. Hopefully you guys learned something new from this. Comments, questions, or concerns, leave them in the box below. Until next time, guys, peace.